Hey friends, it's Ms. D'Eduardo or Mrs. Pelk, whichever one you know me as, but it is so good to see you guys. I hope everyone's doing well. I want to wish you a happy Monday. We are going to start talking about poetry. Are you as excited as I am? I really, really am. I mean, I even brought the cheetah ears out. I'm going to tell you why I'm excited. I'm excited because everybody is a poet and everybody can be a poet. Sometimes you're a poet and you don't even know it. Yeah, that rhymed. And sometimes that happens in poetry. Sometimes it rhymes, and you know what? Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes poems are serious. Sometimes they're really silly. Sometimes poems are really, really long, and sometimes they're short. Do you know that you can even write a poem with just one word? We'll let you get away with that like one time, but don't think you can write your poetry like that all the time, because that would just be silly. Today we're really just going to explore poetry. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what poetry is. I'm going to share with you one of my very favorite poems of all time. I think you'll know the author, or you'll definitely at least know some of the books that he has poems in. And then I want to tell you all about a new reading website that we have for you called Epic, because it has a whole bunch of new stuff. It has like real books in there, so I'm totally excited. Okay, so let's start with one of my very favorite poems, and it's by an author I think you'll know. If you don't know his name, once I tell you a few of his books, I think you're going to say, oh my goodness, I totally know him. So the author's name is Shel Silverstein. Who knew him? All right, let me tell you a couple of his books that he's written. He's written The Giving Tree. He has written A Light in the Attic, which is a book full of poetry. Actually, the next few that I'm going to tell you are books just that are filled with poetry. They're amazing. So A Light in the Attic, Where the Sidewalk Ends. Runny Babbitt is one of my very favorite ones. Another one called Falling Up. So those are just some of his books, and so many of his books are filled and filled with poetry. I hope you get a chance to explore them if you haven't already. I'm going to share one of my favorite poems by him. I have it on here, so I'm going to read it. I have not memorized it. All right. It's called What's in the Sack by Shel Silverstein. What's in the sack? What's in the sack? Is it some mushrooms, or is it the moon? Is it love letters or downy goose feathers? Or maybe the world's most enormous balloon? What's in this sack? That's all they ask me. Could it be popcorn or marbles or books? Is it 2 years worth of your dirty laundry? Or the biggest old meatball that's ever been cooked? Does anyone ask me, hey, when is your birthday? Can you play Monopoly? Do you like beans? What is the capital of Yugoslavia? Or who embroidered that rose on your jeans? No. What's in the sack? That's all they care about. Is it a rock or a rolled up giraffe? Is it pickles or nickels or busted bicycles? And if we guess it, will you give us half? Do they ask me where I've been, or how long I'll be staying, where I'll be going, or when I'll be back, or how do, or what's new, or hey, why are you blue? No. All they keep asking is, what's in the sack? What's in the sack? I'm blowing my stack at the next one who asks me. What's in the sack? What? Oh no, not you too. Wasn't that such a great poem? It's always been one of my very favorites. I think because I can relate to it, I can connect to it, and I also get to use just such an expressive voice, and that's one of the things we'll be talking about over the next few weeks, is using that poet's voice, and it's just so much fun to be able to do. So we're going to talk a little bit about what poetry is, just a little bit. You're going to read a little bit about it today in some Google Slides. I'm going to talk to you about what you're going to be doing each and every day this week. So when we think about poetry, and I'm going to keep this short and simple today because we're going to build on it every single day. But what I want you to understand about poetry is that it really can be anything you want it to be. Here's the cool thing, and this is what kids love about poetry. So you know how teachers kind of have rules for writing? If you know me, I'm kind of like a stickler about them, right? We like to make sure that you have capital letters, and we like to make sure that your sentences make sense, and we like to make sure that you're using punctuation. We like to make sure that your story makes sense to other people reading it. Here's the cool thing. I'm gonna tell you a secret. It's not really a secret, but let's try to keep it between you and me, okay? When you write poetry, you get to break all the rules. Like every single writing rule that we've ever taught you, you get to break them. How awesome is that? Like, let's give like a little cheer. Like, yes, you get to break all the rules when it comes to poetry. Now, poetry has its own set of, I don't want to call them rules, but a set of like really cool things that you can fit into a poetry. And there's different styles of poetry, and there's different things that you can put into poetry. But as far as those writing rules, punctuation and capital letters, like where they need to go and how sentences need to make sense, you get to break those rules. I don't know about you, but sometimes we need a little break from those rules, don't we? Poetry is going to give that to you. So that's the biggest thing I want you to know about poetry, is you do get to kind of like break a lot of those rules. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to be brave as a writer, and it allows you to be brave as a poet. I think a lot of times people think, I can't write poems. I can't write poetry. I can't. I don't like those two words, I can't. I can. I haven't tried yet. I haven't thought about trying yet, but I can. And the great thing about poetry is that there's a whole bunch of freedom in it. Because you get to break a lot of those rules, you really just get to put words on paper. Now, we want those words to connect to some sort of feeling and some sort of emotion and something you're thinking about. But sometimes you just start writing, and figuring out what it means sometimes happens after. Sometimes it happens before, sometimes it happens after. There's no set way of being a poet. There's no set way of writing a poem. We're going to teach you a lot of tips and tricks and all cool things that you can put into poetry. But the biggest lesson I want you to get from this is that you're already a poet, and just have fun. Be brave, have fun, put something on paper. You're going to get a chance to read a lot of different kinds of poems. We have a great website for you called Epic. It's different than Raz-Kids because it's real books that you would see at the bookstore, at the library, that you would order online. It's those real books that you love to read in your classroom and at home. And in that, or on that website, there's a whole section of poetry, and that's what you're going to explore today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you're going to do today and just have fun with it. So each day you are going to click on a link for Google Slides that are designed just for our poetry unit. Today, for example, is called Day 1 Intro. Like, that's what it's called because it's day one, it's the introduction. You're going to open those Google Slides, and either by yourself or with a grown-up, you are going to read through those slides. My suggestion always is to read things twice. Do you hear my cat meowing, by the way? Maybe she saw the cheetah ears. Okay, anyway, hopefully she won't meow again. So each day you're going to click on the set of Google Slides for that day. So today is day 1. We're going to do day 1 intro. You are going to read through the Google Slides. And like I was saying, I like to read through things at least twice. That's just my suggestion. One, so I can kind of like get a feel for whatever I'm doing that day, and another time so it can all sink in. So that's always my suggestion. Today, what's going to happen is you're going to go, and I'm reading my notes over there, just in case you see me peeking over there. You're going to also go on the Epic website that's linked in your teacher's Google Classroom, but is also linked here. You're going to log in. And then in the search bar, you're going to type in the word, you're going to go to Explore, and you're going to type in the word poetry, and a whole bunch of poetry books will be at your fingertips. Your job today is just to explore those poetry books. That's it. You get to read today. A ton. Now, I do have a little extra little challenge for you, and I hope that you do this. Today, it's optional. but the other days you're going to do this. So I want you to get out your regular journal, okay, your writing journal, or if you don't have that at home, a piece of paper will do. And today, after you have read a whole bunch of poetry, and you don't have a set amount that you have to read, I would say maybe set a timer for yourself and read for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because some poems are short and some poems are long. I don't want to say that you have to read like just 5 poems. I would set a timer somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes, however you're comfortable or whatever you're comfortable with, and just explore as much poetry as you can. Hopefully you will be inspired by the amazing poets and the amazing poetry that you are exploring. And so what I hope you do today, and it is optional today, but what I hope you do today is that you get your journal, you get a piece of paper. If it's nice out, go outside and write outside. You can even get like sidewalk chalk and do that on the driveway or a sidewalk with mom or dad's permission. And I just want you to write some poetry. Now, I have no other rules for you, directions on how to write it, because I know you want to say, but Miss D'Eduardo, how do I do that? How do I write poetry? Well, go back to what I told you before. It can be anything. It could be 1 word. It could be 50 words. It could be silly. It could rhyme. It doesn't have to rhyme. It could be anything. What I like to do is I like to take a look at everything around me, and I like to pick one thing, just one thing. I like to think about the color of it, the size of it, the shape of it, maybe what I can use it for. And I like to tell all those different things without telling anybody what it is. So I have over here my orange cup. Okay, if I were to write a poem about my orange cup without telling you that it was my orange cup, I might say things like tall, orange, straw, lid, filled with water. I just wrote a poem. That's it. I just wrote a poem. I didn't think about that before. I just wrote it. That's it. So if you're kind of stuck and a little nervous to try, pick one thing in front of you, around you. Color, shape, size, what do you use it for? And try to describe it without letting anybody else know what it is. That's one way that you can do a poem. It's not the only way. If you have a poem in your heart, then write it. If you're stuck for a poem, then try what I had suggested, okay? So that's your job today. I feel like you were just right here with me, and I got to chat with you, and I'm looking forward to being able to do this with you every single day. So enjoy your time, get on those Google Slides, and I hope you guys have fun today. Bye.